Hi, this is Jeff Heaton. Welcome to Applications of Deep Neural Networks with Washington University. In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up TensorFlow together with PyCharm IDE in order to compile and execute examples from the class notes. Now, the class is primarily oriented towards Jupyter notebooks, but sometimes you might want to use an IDE. So I'm going to show you basically just how you would set this up and how you would take the class code that is designed primarily for Jupyter notebooks and actually run it with a full-blown IDE like PyCharm. And of course, if you find this kind of thing interesting, please subscribe to my channel and click the little bell so that you're notified of any additional videos that I create. Okay, so let's try to do this in a Windows environment. This is using Windows 10. However, if you're doing this on a Mac or Linux, it'll be really relatively similar. The PyCharm environment looks pretty similar on these. I'll try to highlight what might be different for those. If there's a lot of requests, I may do a Mac or Linux version of this as well. So this is running from a Windows virtual machine. I'm actually running on VirtualBox on a Mac, but that really should not matter to this. I used a virtual machine just so that I can show you literally doing this from scratch. Literally the only thing that I have done on this machine ahead of this is installed Google Chrome using Microsoft Edge. I mean, isn't that the main use of Microsoft Edge, to install Chrome? Let's go ahead and start up Chrome. I'm going to take you through literally every step that I go through, although I'm going to fast forward some of these areas because you don't want to sit and watch me download stuff. First, we're going to get Python. Now, if you went through my Jupyter video, it's going to correspond to that pretty much exactly, but I'm going to start from scratch. So we're going to get Python. We're going to get Anaconda. Anaconda, actually, Python. And we'll go to here, Anaconda. All right, you're presented with some choices here. Now, this is going to be your overall base Python environment. The way that I run this is I don't use the base environment for much of anything. I set up virtual environments underneath it, so it doesn't really even matter what my base environment even is. I'm going to choose the latest. I'm going to do Python 3.7, but you will create virtual environments under this for 2.7 or whatever version you need. Currently, as of today, this will change in the future, obviously, but as of February 2019, TensorFlow does require a Python 3.6 environment. It doesn't work in 3.7. Also, TensorFlow does not work in 32-bit. Do not install the 32-bit machine. If you have a 32-bit machine, sorry, you can't run TensorFlow. So, or at least the later versions of it. So in that case, I recommend you using Google Colab or something such as that. So we're going to download 3.7 64-bit. All right, that's downloaded. So you should see it in your File Explorer. There it is under Downloads in your File Explorer. We're just going to go ahead and run this one. Okay, you can just say Next for this. Of course you agree. I suggest doing it for just me. If you're going to be using multiple user accounts, you can do this one. That will install it in C:root, otherwise it'll install it under your user directory. You will have to use administrator privileges if you want to do that. Mac is similar sort of thing. You can install it in your home directory or Office System root. Either one, I say install it as just me. And that shows you where it's installing it. See, users, so it's installing it in your user directory is the point there. Now here are some important things to consider. You can add Anaconda to the path environment variable. I typically do this, but that just determines if you open a DOS prompt or in Mac a terminal prompt, do you want this to be the Python environment for your entire machine? Often this is what I want. That comes with some additional possibilities for problems if you don't know what you're doing. So I don't necessarily recommend that. For this example, I'm not going to do that. And this, the second one, go ahead and register it as my default Python 3.7. Now realize, since you're not clicking this first one, you're going to have to run the Anaconda Python prompt when you want to do this from the command line. From PyCharm, it won't matter. So let's just go ahead and install. This doesn't take a whole long time because this is Anaconda. The thing you have to realize with Anaconda is you are not getting the full Python. You're not getting a ton of packages that they think you might need for AI and data science, because that is the purpose of Anaconda. Anaconda is a special version of Python meant mainly for mathematics and science, which is what I deal with for artificial intelligence. That's why we install Anaconda. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward this now. Excellent, we're installed. So let's go ahead and next. And we don't care about these learning opportunities. You might care about them later. All right, we're fully installed. So to actually get at this from the command line, you need to make sure you use the Anaconda prompt. So let me show you how to do that. So even though you installed Miniconda, this is referred to as Anaconda. Anaconda is sort of the parent company behind this distribution of Python. So launch the Anaconda prompt, and here you can see that you have this word base here. That means that you're using the base Anaconda version. So if you type Python, you have Python 3.7.1, Anaconda Python. Now, what we're going to do is create a Python 3.6 environment. And we're going to follow the instructions on my class's website to show you how to do that. I'll put a link in the description, but just Google Jeff Heaton Woostel. Go to my course page there. That's the easiest way to find it. At the bottom, there is a link under course materials to my GitHub. Go ahead and star or follow me if you want to be notified when this changes. This course changes a lot because I keep it up to date with the current cutting edge stuff. Click on the first one, the intro one, and if you scroll down, I'll fast forward to right where it is. This is installing Python in TensorFlow. We already did this first part, installing Anaconda. Now everything we're going to do here is installing TensorFlow for the CPU. If you want to do GPU, we'll probably do another video on that separately, but believe me, installing GPU is a whole another ball game of complexity. If you want to just get your feet wet with GPU, I recommend Google Colab. They give you a pretty decent one completely for free. So if we scroll down, this is information on dealing with the compatibility issue between TensorFlow, the latest version. Now we're dealing with pre-2.0 TensorFlow. 2.0 of TensorFlow is coming out soon, and I'll probably update all my videos for that. But prior to TensorFlow 2.0, it only supports Python 3.6. I do not know if TensorFlow 2.0 will support 3.7. I certainly hope it does, but who knows? So let's go ahead and create a new environment called TensorFlow. So the neat thing about Anaconda is you can create these virtual environments, and you can have environments created for all your various Python environments. I have an entire video on how to create these environments, and I'll put a link to that as well. So I'm just going to copy that command and paste it in. We're going to run this command, and it will create a new environment for us. I like doing this from the command line because I don't work exclusively in an IDE or Jupyter. If I have a long-running Python script, usually I will want to run that from the command line and not necessarily in an IDE, because then I can pipe the output off to a file, or I may want to run it on a very high-end machine in the cloud. So here it is asking me, it's telling me all the stuff that I have to install. I'm going to say yes, because it is literally creating a 3.6 environment for me, so it's got a lot to install there. I am going to fast forward at this point till it's done. And that's what you should see when it's done. And by the way, if you're at a DOS prompt and you're not seeing the word base, I guarantee there'll be questions about this in the comments, but make sure that you started this from the Anaconda prompt, from the start menu, and not from the DOS prompt. Okay, it says to do conda activate TensorFlow. You can also do activate TensorFlow. They both amount to the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and try it with conda activate. Often, like I said, you'll see me do it the other way, but all should boil down to the same thing. So conda activate. Notice your prompt is now TensorFlow. And watch this. We'll ask Python what version it is. Now we're in 3.6. So that's a good thing, because that is what TensorFlow wants. Now we're going to install some other packages that I gave you for my class. And again, if you've already installed and gone through my Jupyter example, then you're pretty much good to go. I am not going to install Conda Jupyter. I could, but I really don't need it for this example. So we'll just go ahead and install these. I am going to basically run these one by one by one. I'll stop when I get to TensorFlow and Keras, because believe me, if anything can go wrong, it's going to go wrong there. So I'm going to completely fast forward this because it's boring as anything, and you've got better things to do. You have to watch your own computer. You don't need to watch mine. So as you're installing these, you might see this. You shouldn't see any errors, but you might see something like this, where it just says requirement already satisfied. That's fine. As these packages change, different requirements are added And some of these packages just may be installed from a previous step. Nothing to worry about. I just installed Pillow, so I'm going to continue with this, and I'll stop at TensorFlow and let you look at that literally as I do it. Well, actually, I will mention PSUtil. This one is not critical that you install, and it may not work because it does give problems on some systems, Mac in particular. It's really just a benchmarking. It's used for just one example in the entire course in Module 1 to show how powerful your computer is to benchmark it. So if this doesn't work, don't worry about it too much. I am going to go ahead and install it here. Okay, that worked just fine for me. So let's go ahead and install TensorFlow now, because I've been following the instructions, my instructions on my website, and these are the next two that are left. So we'll do pip install TensorFlow, and I am specifying a version. This will probably be the last version before it flips to 2.0. So if you get an error, you can drop this entire double equals and version part, and then it'll just install the latest version. I suggest my class to do this just so that we stay consistent as we progress through a semester. I always update that at the end of each semester, though. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll do pip install TensorFlow, enter. If you're going to run into problems, you will run into them now. So let's run this. Now this is great, it's installing, but a common issue that you will run into that I always get questions about, and I guarantee you there'll be questions in the comments about this. Feel free to post them, I'll help you as best I can. But if it tells you it can't find TensorFlow, if it tells you TensorFlow does not exist, which is untrue, TensorFlow exists, you can ask Google. That means either you're in the wrong version of Python, so you're in 3.7, or you're in 32-bit. So something like that is why it will tell you that it can't find a version of TensorFlow that satisfies your requirements. If it can't find TensorFlow, drop the double equal, see if it can do it just finding the latest version. But if it does not, then there's just something with your system that is not compatible with TensorFlow, and you'll pretty much have to Google research that. But usually, almost always, it's the version. It's that you're not in your virtual TensorFlow environment that you've created, the 3.6 Python, or you're in 32-bit. All right, this takes a moment because there's a lot of things for it to deal with TensorFlow, so I am going to go ahead and fast forward. Alrighty, if you see successfully installed TensorFlow, rock on. That is a good thing. If TensorFlow did not install for some reason, you got an error, that usually means Googling whatever error you got, or often, a lot of these I can't necessarily help because unless I'm seeing the error actually on my system, it's hard to diagnose. And there it is, all set up. I'll press enter, and Keras starts to install. Usually if TensorFlow goes good, you're not going to have an error with Keras. Keras just sits on top of TensorFlow. I'll fast forward now. Alright, and now we should be good to go. Let's do a quick test. So I typed Python just to enter Python. And I'm going to do import TensorFlow as TF. Notice the slight pause. It takes a moment to load it. Hopefully you don't get an error at this point. It should just come right back. Okay, silence is bliss in this case. Now let's do print TF dot underbar. Make sure you do 2 underbars. Common mistake. Version. Underbar. 1.1.2. If you see this, awesome. You have TensorFlow installed successfully. So I will exit the environment. You have to do the quit function to get out of that. Now we're done with the command line. We're going to go ahead and install PyCharm. So to do this, we are going to just search for PyCharm, and it'll take you to the page for the appropriate operating system. And we'll click download now. Okay, this is where it gets interesting. So you're going to want to download the community edition, but you're going to want to check over here and see what version they're talking about. There is a bug in the current version, at least the current as of when I recorded this version of PyCharm. You want to make sure that you have 2019.1 or later, particularly if you're running Windows. I don't believe this affects the Mac version, but this causes you to get a DLL error when you're trying to load TensorFlow. And Macs don't even have DLLs, so I don't think this affects Mac. At least I've not run into it. So up here, it says coming in 2019.1. So that's the upcoming version. Now, if they've already released it, that won't be there. You'll just download it like normal. But we're going to click on that since it is there. We want at least 2019.1. And it tells you that you're now in the early access. And they give you the obligatory warnings. And we're going to download the Community Edition. That begins to download. So I am going to fast forward. Okay, there it is. We can now proceed to install it. And by the way, if you installed a previous version of PyCharm, I suggest you just uninstall it and put this version in. Double click, and we're going to say yes. Okay, you can do next. That location's perfectly fine. We'll do the 64-bit launcher and add it to the path. And I've never really done that one. We'll skip that. Next, and we'll let it install as JetBrains. And we'll fast forward. All right, now it's done. And it wants to reboot. Yours may or may not, but I will go ahead and allow it to reboot. Obviously, we'll fast forward for that. Okay, we are now freshly logged in, rebooted. I'm going to go ahead and start up PyCharm. So I'll start up PyCharm Community Edition. PyCharm will ask you a few getting started questions. These are the same on the Macintosh as on Windows. There's nothing to import because I did a clean install. You can pick the Dracula or the more light GUI. It's your choice. I'll use Dracula. I'll just take these default options and we'll start using PyCharm. And there it is, 19.1. Okay, we're going to create a new project. I'm going to call this TF Test. You can call it anything. Now this part's important. Open this little thing below here and you'll see several options. Now there's virtual and all these different things. These are all different ways of having virtual Python versions so that you can have multiple versions, multiple different setups. So this lets us run 3.6 and actually run TensorFlow. We are going to use an existing interpreter because we already set that up. That's what we set up in the first part of this. Now notice here it says no interpreters. That's just because we haven't told it about it yet. Click the dots. And what we're going to do is click the dots again here because there's no interpreters available. And you have to navigate to where it's at. This is a little hokey, but this is how they do it. Go to Jeff. Now you'll be somebody else, obviously. And it'll be Anaconda 3. Don't worry about that Anaconda 3 below it. That's just something I was working on. And then, so you want just straight up Anaconda. And then envs, that's where your environments are stored. So that TensorFlow environment that we created, there it is. You need to find python.exe and select that. Okay? And sure, make it available to all projects. Why be greedy? And okay. Now you've got it here as your interpreter, so you can go ahead and create. None of this stuff up here matters because you didn't select to create a new environment. I don't like to create the new environments through PyCharm. You certainly can. I prefer to create them through the command line like I did in the previous part of this video. And I do this because I will often launch my Python projects from the command line and not even through the IDE. If I'm going to run something very, very long term, it's going to run like overnight or a day or two, I don't necessarily want that in the IDE. I might be using the IDE for other development. So let's create. Welcome, welcome. I feel very welcomed. Let's go ahead and right-click here. Now notice it's scanning install packages. This will take a while. See down here, scanning files to index. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward this. Typically you want to wait till all this activity is done and you don't see anything going down here. Otherwise you might just have weird results. This is only done when you first create a new project, and it's best to just let that be out of the way so that's not another variable. Let's fast forward. Alright, all those little background tasks are done. Let's test and see if TensorFlow works. So I'm going to create new. We're going to create a file. I'm going to call this test.py. It can be called anything you want, but it's got to be a py file. By the way, if you try to right-click and you don't see run test, which is what we're about to do, then there might be still some stuff going on down here. Or you might not have properly pointed it to a Python environment, doing the two dots, the keys that we just did when we were setting everything up. So let's go ahead and put some code in. Same code that we did from the command line. Import TensorFlow as TF, and then print TF dot double underbar version, double underbar. And now we can run it. This is the point where you cross your fingers. This takes a moment for TensorFlow to load up. This is usually a good sign. The red dot there, that lets you know that it's running. If I were to click that, that would abort it. Don't do that. Really helps to spell things right. B-E-R-S-I-O-N. Perfect. 1.12. So this is how you get TensorFlow up and running. Now you can do all kinds of things from here. So go forth and build cool things. Thank you for watching my video, and if you find this kind of thing useful, please subscribe and click the little bell. Thank you very much.